Namaste, and good evening, everyone. Today we are going to continue with chapter 18, and this will be the last session. So I'll conclude. I will start with a brief summary of what we have been doing so far in the 18th chapter. We are talking about renunciation and sacrifice, because 18th chapter started with the question and the definition of these terms, renunciation and sacrifice. Renunciation is about selfless action, that is giving up, doing selfless actions, basically what renunciation is all about. And sacrifices is about, doing things without the eye on the results of those actions. Now, this sacrifice, tyaga, actually is about the way your mind works. So initially, Krishna defined the characteristics of karma to make Arjuna understand the self as not the agent for the action. So he defined the causes of action, karma karanam, which is constituted of 5 factors: the adhishtanam, the seat; karta, the actor; karanam, the cause; cheshta, the energy or bioimpulses; and devam, the universal phenomenal forces. When these 5 are combined together, the karta, who is enlivened by the self, comes to act in this world. So that is the cause for action. All these 5 together causes the action. It is not the self. Self-enlivened jiva is the enjoyer and the doer through the use of this adhishtanam, karanam, cheshta, and devam. He also explained that karma is also fired up by, or karma chodana, impetus for action, by 3 things: the jnayam, the object; jnanam, the knowledge about the object; and parijnada, the jiva. Again, parijnada is the knower. The jiva is the knower. So there is jiva. Without jiva, nothing happens. That jiva, who is combined with the BMI and the qualities of BMI, is now becoming the knower of the action, the experiences. The other perspective, the third perspective that Krishna gave Arjuna about karma is that karma is also about consolidating 3 things. The consolidator, sangraha for karma, are the karanam, the organ. Again, karanam, which is also the cause for the action. It becomes the organ. Then karta, again, jiva, which is the agent. And karma, the actual work, which is the end product of it. So you can see that the self by itself does not have any agency in this. It is all about the outer things, the physical, the material things that as trapped, or the trapping is not the correct word because the self is everywhere. That which has enlivened this BMI is basically what is creating this problem. And so Krishna says that sattva, rajas, tamo gunas are in variation are actually the real cause for your tendencies of the mind to work out different kinds of thought processes, as well as then translating it into action. So that means there is an intellect that is actually taking this and acting. So he goes on to explain the characteristics of the intellect: sattvic intellect, rajasic intellect, and tamasic intellect, as the main agent of action. Sattvic intellect, rajasic intellect, and tamasic intellect, these are the actual agents of action, making us do actions in this world. So it is about shaping this intellect, the powers of the intellect, accordingly to control the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic aspects of the qualities of the mind that will help you to become a different person, the intellect. And now the intellect is the rational part of it, and there is the emotional part, the mind. Mind has to have the strength to control itself. So intellect has to control the mind and make it sattvic. Sattvic, there are three types again of the fortitude or the strength of the mind: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So that needs to be controlled. So with this, the intellect now plays a better role if we are able to control the mind, so that the actions become different types. Now, ultimately, the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic elements influence the intellect and mind, and then make us enjoy the work that we are doing. And therefore, there are three types of happinesses that are produced. So he explains that also. The joys of the self, the joys of the mind, and the joys of the senses are the three types of happinesses that are enjoyed by the karta, the agent, the jiva. So the agents are the intellect and the mind and the senses. The intellect, mind, and the senses become the agent of action, agents of action, giving us different types of satisfactions and happiness. So we need to understand that what is required is the process of thinking, the process of generalization, the process of abstraction, and applying your thought process to actions through knowledge. Knowledge can be sattvic, rajas, sattvic, which is holistic vision, could be, similarly attitudes which are sattvic, which is selfless applications of, your actions, yajna, tyaga, samarpana, prasada bhavas, and through the process of thinking, which is, we need to shape it to sattvic thinking, which is about shaping your intellect, sattvic intellect. So this is what basically we covered yesterday. So let us look at the same thing in graphic. So this impinges on your mind. All of us are something like this. On the left side, we can see the individual, the jiva inside, energizing us, the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic kind of nature, gunas, trapping us, trapping the self with the ego, enlightened. So ego is actually cutting us away from the infinitude outside. It is the same. Everywhere it is same. And we are nothing but this infinitude manifested. But we, because of ego, think that this is me inside, trapped here, limited. That is me. That is basically what is happening. So, our thoughts and actions, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic, from the mind, it comes out as actions. Thoughts as actions. Tamasic actions are represented in black. Rajasic in red and white represents the sattvic as sattvic, your sattvic intellect working as sattvic actions. So these sattva, rajas, and tamo gunas are what actually comes out into the world and creates all actions and reactions. Now, think about this situation where the ego is sublimated. When the ego is sublimated, we are in sync with the infinite. We are in sync with the infinite everywhere. That is the situation that we should ultimately reach. And in that state, what is happening is, when the ego is sublimated, all our thoughts and actions become purely sattvic, not only sattvic. That is the thing that we need to understand. It's not only sattvic. It also becomes in sync with the infinitude. So there is no colors there. It is blue still. All actions are blue. It is in sync with the infinite. And at that time, what happens is you can see your actions. Now, just watch that third circle, concentric circle, which is every one of us in a sattvic mode, purely sattvic mode, and not only sattvic, but also completely fired by the joys of the self, in sync with the infinitude. Then your actions come out. See what is happening? See what is happening when, can you see what is happening now? Can you tell me what, anyone, you can actually type it out, what you feel, what is happening? Do you see what is happening? Symbolically, I have shown you. Okay, so in a single sentence, if somebody can type out what is happening, that will be great. We have seen previously, when you are with Sattvic, Rajas, and Tamas, completely, influenced by these gunas, the way we think and act, the action reaction affects the world. But in this case, when it is in tune with the infinitude, what is happening is your actions. Yes, it is definitely Anandji wrote selfless actions. And the effect of it is that it is not creating any action or reaction. No action, reaction, because things are in tune with what is already existing. What is that? Coexistence and expansion. That is basically, it is not creating any ripple in this ocean of infinitude. That is what is called as Kridanda, the end of all actions. Actionlessness in action. Inaction in action. This is what Gita is teaching us. It does not leave behind any vasanas. When philosophy says it does, when karma balatyaga and it doesn't leave behind any vasanas, it just means you are in sync with infinitude and there is no ripple created in the outside world. Because you are not doing anything new. You are doing what the divine does. Since you are doing what the divine does, what happens? You are but infinite. You yourself become divinity. And there is nothing to lose, nothing to gain. That is that state of mind, the freedom of mind, the infinitude of mind, the sannyasa of mind. That is what the liberation from limitedness or limitations or liberation from confinement is all about. That is moksha. Moksha sannyasa yoga. You are reaching moksha through sannyasa. Moksha through the sannyasa of selfishness. That is what Gita is ultimately teaching. That is the easiest way to illustrate what is the wisdom of Gita intelligence. So whatever you are actually doing is nothing but the music that emanates from the flute of Krishna. Krishna is flowing through the flute and out comes the music. That is what the Bhagavad-Gita is. The music of Bhagavan, the music of infinitude. That is Swam Geetam, the music of the self. That is Swam Geetam. Looking at it in another manner, again, summarizing this, produce, enhance, and expand. Renunciation and sacrifice should be the enlivening factor for the production, enhancement, and expansion. And Sattvic itself directed towards the joys of the self only. Because you can do good things for gaining fame, or because I want to be happy and I want to make sure that I am doing something. That feeling is there. It is Sattvic, but it is not yet the joys of the self. When even you give up that only, it becomes. So produce, enhance, and expand. This is basically producing and enhancing and expanding. Actually, the self is now working through our body, mind, and intellect, producing, enhancing, and expanding our productivity, our memories, knowledge, etc., austerity, the power of practices, disciplined practices, emotions, balanced mind, and even pleasures. The happiness is now fully geared towards the joys of self. The senses are now geared towards not just enjoying the outside world, but it just exists. The enjoyment is there, but that is not given importance to by the self, because your mind is now geared towards the self. This is the state of existence with the wisdom of coexistence and expansion. So that all your mind's activities are now completely filled with the knowledge of the self. You are articulating that knowledge of the self through your motivations for the joys of the self and expressing all your thoughts as selfless actions in this world. So, knowledge, articulation, and expression that becomes the pranava, the Shabda Brahmam, the action Brahmam, actually, A, U, and Ma, Om, which becomes the expressions of man as Ishvara. Man becomes the expression of Ishvara. This is basically what is required. And to make us understand that the self is merely the ultimate witness. The 5 factors of any action was given, which because of the sattvic and rajasic and tamasic nature of our mind, the self now working through intellect, mind, and the body exhibits the different characteristics of the jiva with the existing knowledge, which is also influenced by sattvic, rajasic, and tamas. So the agent is the jiva. Knowledge and then the action are influenced by the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic nature. So, karta, karanam, and karma in resulting in all our actions. No one can escape the gunas, but all have the capability to shape. The gunas is basically the message that Krishna wants to give Arjuna later, because everybody thinks otherwise, okay, these sattva-rajas gunas cannot be escaped. It will be there in the physical medium. When the expression of the infinite as the universe happened, immediately this properties of matter came into play. And all of us, because we are products of that properties of matter, we are also influenced by sattva, rajas, tamo gunas. We cannot escape that. Okay, if that is so, then we will have we will think that, okay, that is my fate, but it is not. Krishna says, Arjuna, karma yoga says that there is nothing called fate. It is all destiny that we need to create through actions of karma yoga. How? What is the karma? Understanding the different capacities applied to thought processes and how it applies to your attitudes and aptitudes. That is karma yoga. Through karma yoga, if you really understand this and if you apply this process, that is how you need to shape. You can shape the gunas, and that definitely works. So this is what is illustrated. This changing of the qualities of the mind and also directing the thought processes back towards the self is basically what is renunciation and sacrifice in action. This renunciation of sacrifice in action can be applied in all walks of life, whether it is family life, whether it is professional life, whether it is in society, social living, etc. Everywhere it is possible. In fact, of course, in this session we will not go into details of each one of them, how we can apply, etc. But at least there was some question. Dr. Indira Gaudaman had also raised that question of giving some examples on these things, how we can apply this, how we can apply renunciation and sacrifice in these various aspects, or how we can actually shape the intellect to make sure that there are examples. How does it implicate? What are the implications of these things in our life? Can be illustrated. For example, in an official working atmosphere, I can give example of typically some examples that we discuss in self-analytics is about the post-it sticker of the 3M, the company 3M. The company, two scientists by name Arthur Fry and Spencer Silver actually were involved in it. The story of Arthur Fry, who invented these 3M post stickers, which we all use. I don't know whether we have discussed in this session, in these sessions, but again, just to quickly go through that. This Arthur Fry actually came up with this requirement for having a gum-like gum that can actually be applied to paper and then you can stick it somewhere or remove it easily, but without without creating any impressions on the surfaces. So if it is bookmark or whatever, you can simply peel it off, nothing happens. And that kind of a thing was required. And their company had come up with some gum-like properties for industrial stickers, glue, which was they accidentally found that there is one combination that can create a very simple glue, but then it was left and nobody thought about it later because it was of no use. But Arthur Fry came up with the idea of this post-it stickers, which was initially rejected by the company 3M. Actually, it was called as Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, 3M. They rejected it, and Arthur Fry thought that it was a very good product that will impact people. It will find global markets. But his idea was not immediately taken. He did not give up. Neither did he fight or create problems or get out or whatever. He continued to work with Minnesota mining and manufacturing, but he also went and acquired some secondary machinery, second-hand machinery, and then put it up in his garage, and then experimented with, and then finally came up with the best combinations of chemicals to come up with this glue that can be used for the stick-it posters. And he actually, some of his friends helped him to create print out such papers, and then he started using it in Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, 3M itself, with other teams, and they soon found it very exciting in the sense that it was very useful for various purposes, and reminders, even project discussions, design discussions, and all those things, and it became widely used in the company. And the company directorship then noticed this, and then they actually patented this and created the 3M post-it stickers. And you know that 3M post-it stickers, 3M post-it stickers are synonymous with 3M now. All of us know that, and throughout the world, everywhere it is being used. And it became a big, 3M became a big success story. And there were lots of attitudinal aspects, unselfish, actually, application of knowledge, application of attitudes, etc., that came from Arthur Fry without even caring for what he will gain. And later it became such a bigger impact, and he gained tremendously, but that was not his aim. His aim was about the idea. He was fired by the idea. So that is one of the kinds of applications in similar situations we all face, and we can actually come up with our thought processes that are sattvic, and sattvic not for our purpose, sattvic for the organizational purpose, the larger goal, that organizational purpose, the larger goal. That larger goal will always benefit humanity or larger organizations, etc. Similarly, in family also, I'll give another simple example. I mean, this is something, a real example from somewhere, which I remember, and I'm not going to give names, but I will give you some synonyms. For example, let us consider two families are there, and in both the families, there are two, let's say, two girls, two daughters, and they are thick friends, family friends, and this, let's say they are A and B, and X is the mother of A, and Y is the mother of B, let's say. Now, I am looking at X, A, and B only. Y, at the moment, not interested, but X, A, and B. This A and B are two different types of people, two different types of girls. A is more flamboyant and then likes to go out and socialize and all those things. And X mother is definitely normally worried because of A's kind of activities. So the best thing that X found was that B was completely different type of personality, and the X had a very big confidence in B, that B will always be asked to go with A in all the outings, so that X has a peaceful mind because there is somebody with her. Now look at that kind of, and this B has got trouble. B doesn't like it, but then B cannot say anything to X because they are thick friends and they respect each other, and so therefore B is compliant, goes with, but she suffers. because with age she feels out of place. And she is not saying anything, so this is keeping on happening, and there is a problem. But nobody, X doesn't know about it, and B suffers. X is happy because B is supervising or at least with her, and therefore things are going smooth. Now, what do you think? What is the kind of the personality that X is? X is intellect. What is she doing? She's doing something good. There is Sattva element in it because she wants to protect her daughter. But there are other elements also. The intellect is working not only with Sattva, but there is Rajas and Tamas also. She doesn't know what kind of an impact this can have on B's mind. In fact, much later, when I actually interacted with these people, much later, maybe 20 years later or whatever, B still had misgivings about those incidents. In the sense that at that time, how she felt, she still remembers and she still hates that. So look at how X should have actually worked. Of course, you can say X, A, B, all of them could have worked in different ways. If you simply look at X alone, X's intellect and the gunas that worked in her mind, even though she was doing something good for her daughter, you can imagine this. You can actually try to translate this into various, gunas and see if there is any scope for improvement in X's way of working or way of handling this situation. In fact, since there is limited time, I don't want to do an interactive thing here. Otherwise, we could have typed out the gunas and what kind of gunas are playing, and what are the things that are playing in their minds, and what types of gunas are there, and what is the mix of those gunas, and how that could have been improved through different actions, and what those different actions would actually entail in terms of the gunas. All those things can, but think about these problems, such kind of situations. Many mothers actually will look at things about their daughter only. But that motherly care is sattvic. But then there are other rajasic and tamasic gunas also playing into that, because of which it is creating this other problem of B is not being taken care of. Okay, so that is, these are the kind of analytics that we can go through in analyzing everyday situations. And if we actually start doing this analysis, balancing out all these things, and then trying to figure out where lies the best possible action, that actually, without negative effects anywhere, that is the true type of action which actually has the ingredients of renunciation and sacrifice. But it is very, very difficult to balance it out unless and until you start understanding and analyzing and then balancing out. And through practice only we can reach that kind of. In fact, here itself, there are solutions. But I don't know, we don't want to spend time on solving this issue now. We'll go forward because we need to complete this 18th chapter. So, then this sacrifice and renunciation, three types of sacrifices, tyaga and sannyasa, action in actionlessness, we understood that is what karma yoga is. Karma karanam, this actionlessness is attained through the non-agency of the self. That is what was illustrated. Karma karanam, karma chodana, and karma sangraha, causes, impetus, and consolidators are playing this trick. This shows that the self is a mere witness. And all of us are just instruments in the hands of the BMI is instruments which work out their activities. BMI is the instrument, equipment, self powers those, but they show the qualities of the equipment. Gunas. So we need to control the gunas. How? Thinking, generalization, abstraction, and application. Through knowledge, sattvic. Through attitudes, sattvic. And through thinking, sattvic. Holistic vision, selfless action, and poised intellect. That's how you need to consolidate that. We saw the practically, how we should be doing these things yesterday. So the interplay of the three gunas define the characteristics of each of the jiva as the agent, knowledge, another agent, and the resulting action, the end product. How? Intellect, because there are three types of intellect: clarity, clear in, and the intellects are clear in intellect, indecisive intellect, and perverted intellect. So we need to be clear. Fortitude of three types: discipline, excitement, and laziness. So the joys attained are sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. We must also understand that all divine actions and all earthly actions are influenced by the gunas. But we have the capabilities to shape the gunas. That is where we stopped yesterday. So difficulty to break free from the clutches of the gunas can be overcome by understanding that differing capacities applied to the thought processes and how it applies to your attitudes and your aptitudes. This is how our thinking to be geared towards fine-tuning your attitudes and your aptitudes. That is the way you can break free from the clutches of these gunas. So, the gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, knowledge, ignorance, and projection, and intentions and motivations and attitudes are influenced by the gunas, these three gunas, and our thought processes. Thought process means our capacities of mind. So properties of nature, sattvic, rajas, and tamas, influencing the capacities of the mind to observe, describe, explain, interpret, reason, judge, differentiate, etc. The mind's characteristics, mind's properties. Because all of our thinking is influenced by knowledge and ignorance and the resultant projection. Always, anyone, if you take, there is nothing else. Our mind is influenced by the knowledge that we have as well as the ignorance that we have, because nobody can be 100% knowledgeable. There will definitely be knowledge deficits. So they play and then project, make us project into productive, gainful, skilled, and creative activities. So 1841 says that division of duties are according to the qualities of nature. The four fundamental definitions of the, we call it caste. That, so I just wrote it. It is descriptive analytics about the four types of work are created based on aptitude and attitude born of nature. The four productive, gainful, skilled, and creative types are created by this gunas. And the properties of the mind, your attitudes, bringing us four types. So you have Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the Shudra. Okay, so we have, into the modern parlance also, I have actually divided that into four categories of people who are research-oriented, engineering-oriented, or action-oriented, technology-oriented with respect to tools and other things and tools. In fact, the general classification of science, engineering, technology, and tools are nothing but the outputs of these kind of four types of descriptive analytics of the different types of aptitudes that people bring forth. Scientific, studying nature, discovering and generalizing and abstracting patterns is the capability of the creative mind that helps you to do that. Similarly, the artifact production in the engineering, design and development of artifacts that helps to create the technology. And what is technology? Technology are the fuel for the economy, propels the growth of businesses. So that is the Vaishya element. And the tools are the expert elements, or technology, skilled and trained manpower actually require that. So they are the Vaishya, the Shudra, service and implementation types. So science, engineering, technology, and tool, and in not as a kind of 4 different classification of human endeavor is mapped into Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And Krishna goes on to describe a little bit more further into the details of Brahmin nature, Kshatriya nature, Vaishya nature, and Shudra nature. That is in 42, 43, 44, and 45. I will be listing out, I'm posting this, so you can then go through that. And from this only, we have actually summarized all the qualities of different types of work, etc., in practical terms in self-analytics. So it is all about this, that the knowledge, projection, and ignorance combining together to project through the functions of the mind and the intellect to actions in the world of in the world, which is innovation, production, gainfulness, and skill, karma. The gunas, guna, karma, classified into 4 types: knowing, teaching, mentoring, 1 type; designing, managing, leading, another type; optimizing, evaluating, estimating, another type; implementing, prototyping, and fixing, the ground nuts and bolts level work. 4 types. Any field you take, you can actually classify the kinds of work and the type of people into 4. That is what Krishna was talking about in 41, which was also discussed in chapter 4. So, this loop of correction is required. How actually you can change your nature of work to excellence is by correcting this area, loop of correction, which is this loop of correction, controlling the gunas to yield selfless actions. There is an energy that you can bring forth in your mind, that energy from within that helps you to actually control these gunas to come up with what is required, is the power of the self working through you. So the power of self, the role of the power of self comes in this control, this loop that we need to bring forth. Bringing forth this power from right inside, fired by our knowledge of the infinitude, the self, that power, invoking that power to bring forth these changes within our mind and therefore our thoughts and actions is what is called as self-effort. Because you are bringing in that self to work, to sync with coexistence and expansion. So the self is now working through you. You have to bring it out. Prove your understanding, your reflections. Keep constantly monitoring, minding the mind, etc. You bring forth that power to actions in this world. That is how your thought processes have to be changed. Controlling the gunas by invoking an inner power. That inner power is nothing but the power of infinitude, bringing forth the mind into the mind and the mind then working towards it. You have to consistently, constantly, persistently, mindfully do that. Keep doing that. After some time, you find it easy. Initially, you will think it is difficult. Initially, you will think that this loop of correction, the power of the loop of this correction is difficult. It is difficult. It is very easily done. That is what people, it is very easily talked about, but very difficult to do. Correct, it is. But nobody can help you. Only you can help you. That is why Krishna said, Uddaret Atmanatmanam. We need to invoke that power from within. For that, you need to actually believe that this power is infinitude. This power of coexistence and expansion that needs to fire my mind and thoughts, that is the power of self within me, and I, the jiva is now invoking that power and throwing it out as actions in this world. That is when I become divine. So if you believe and have faith established by knowledge and completely inspired by that self, then your mindfulness will start working. Dhyana, that is dhyana, constantly being reminded of that self. That is dhyana. Through dhyana yoga, you will be able to constantly raise, meaning it is not about sitting with eyes closed in Padmasana and doing pranayama. It is not meditation. The meditation is about constantly being reminded of the infinitude, the self as the infinitude, or infinitude as the self, and invoking that power. What is that? When you invoke the power of the self, which is infinitude, it has no attributes. But when in the manifested BMI it is expressing, it becomes the power of thinking that is rooted in coexistence and expansion. Because that is yajna rupa, yajna swarupan. Self has become, is the yajna swarupa. And that yajna swarupa, I need to take. It is, when you say yajna swarupa, it is not just, sacrificing or making, it is just mere sacrificing or giving, donations, charity, etc. No, it is not that. The yajna is about applying your thought processes consistently, persistently, and with mindfulness on, applying the attitudes of yajna, tyaga, samarpana, prasada, bhava in all your actions. That power, that invoking the power of self is called as self-effort. And that self-effort only you can do. And you have to tell yourself constantly, no, yes, it is difficult. It could be difficult, but not for me. I am capable of doing it. The I am capable of doing it is the first step that everyone has to take to tap that power of self. Otherwise, if you think that, oh, it is difficult, you have immediately failed. Because when you say it is difficult, it is like the air leaking out of a balloon. That you should not let the air leak out. You should make sure that you have faith and the stamina and the power to apply it, because self is so powerful, and do it. So that is basically what Krishna is telling. So one can attain the highest perfection by devotion to one's work, natural work. What is the natural work that all of us have? The natural work that we all of us have is to follow the dictates of coexistence and expansion, dharma. Anything that you do to satisfy your body, mind, and intellect is not your work. It is the other work. Satisfying your mind, satisfying your intellect, ego, and satisfying your senses, pleasures. That is the other duty, others' duty. So when you are doing that, you are actually doing others' duty. It is just like the firefighter engaged in surgery in the hospital operation theater, or a surgeon getting involved in firefighting, doing some other's job. It is bound to create problems. It is dangerous. So when your actual duty is to do is the satisfaction of the inner self. Instead, you are doing things to satisfy the intellect, mind, and the body. You are doing others' work. So you have to do your natural work. This will now be discussed. Him from whom is the evolution or activity of beings, by whom all this is pervaded, the self. By worshipping that self with his proper duty, dharma, man attains perfection. That is what Krishna says. So dexterity in action, economy in action, efficiency in action, and creativity in action, all geared towards the infinite joys of the self and not to the mind, intellect, and the body. That is the path to perfection. By only seeking the joys of the self, we are in effect carrying out the natural duty to the self. This is our proper duty, and this is the path to perfection. Better to one's own natural work, even if devoid of excellence. You do your work, your dharma only, even if it is not. That is, you gear everything towards the self. Yes, you may be actually not doing it perfectly, so results will be limited, but still keep doing that. Instead, selflessly do things, but I don't gain anything, or I'm not gaining what I actually should have, because the Gita intelligence promised me something, but I'm not getting it. So I will give up. And instead I will do it selfishly, intellect, mind, body, pleasures. That is wrong. You have to keep on believing, keep on doing in whatever little ways you can, and start, booting up, bootstrap. You keep on doing. After some time, it will start enlarging. That is the promise Krishna is making to Arjuna in 1847. Doing one's natural duty incurs no negative reactions. Even if you fail, there is no problem. And we discussed this in chapter 3. Everybody acts in conformance with nature. That is the problem. Attachment and aversion is the building blocks that are standing in our way. The blocks that are created for going against this teaching. Attachment, aversion. Either attachment or aversion. Likes and dislikes. So that is making us go after the BMI's work, the other work, instead of my real work, the duty, which is to derive the joys of the self. We discussed that. I just took that slide out here. One's natural work, even though defective, should not be abandoned. That is joys of the self. Even if you don't really succeed in getting the required results, keep doing it. It will take some time and you will win ultimately. He who is free from selfishness, who has subdued his mind and the senses, from whom selfish desires have fled, attains the supreme state of perfection, freedom from action, actionlessness in action. So just again, this 18th chapter, summarizing what is there in all the 17th chapters. So here the third chapter's elements are being summarized again. So what is required is, let us remove the final smoke of ignorance. We are the self. What is the knowledge? We are the self. Let there be no doubt about it. One who has attained such perfect knowledge has attained the state of actionlessness in action. That is the supreme consummation, becoming one with the self. Supreme consummation with the knowledge of the self. Or that is what becoming self is all about. 1850. Absolute perfection is the consummation of the knowledge of the self. That is an absolute perfection. So we talk about perfection, attaining perfection. In the material world, it is something different. But Gita is teaching us the true meaning of perfection. What is perfection? It is the absolute faith in the fact that I am the self. And therefore, whatever I think and whatever I do will always be geared towards the satisfaction of the self only, nothing else. I become the self then. Initially, what is happening? The self, powering the indelo, throws open the ego. And the ego controls the mind. And therefore, the mind, egoistic intellect or egoistic mind, controls the organs of perception. All perceptions are geared by selfishness. We start understanding and interacting with the through the senses with the outside world, driven by selfishness. That is what. So what is happening is self is forgotten. Self. First, intellect takes the control of self, and intellect puts on the semblance of self. Meaning, intellect says, "I am the self," because of ego. That is happening every one of us. And when the intellect says, "I am the ego," then the intellect wants to satisfy the BMI. So the mind puts on the semblance of intellect. Emotions are generated within the mind to satisfy the intellect, to satisfy the BMI. Senses put on the semblance of the mind, and ultimately the body puts on the semblance of the senses. So this is recursively happening. Senses, mind, intellect, and wrapping the self. And we think we have the erroneous perception of intellect is the self initially, intellect mind pair is the self second, intellect mind senses as the self, and intellect mind senses and this body conglomerate as the self. And I say that I am this physical me. This is the bondage. This is the chaining up of the self. This is what is called. That is why karma bandhanam, the bondage term has come, because we are wrapping the self, or we are chaining the self, binding the self, bound by the self. So we forget. We need to change this. We will come to that again. We only need to eliminate what is erroneously ascribed to self by ignorance of the self. We need not acquire separate knowledge. We need to only remove the ignorance. That what is ignorance? That we are the body, the mind, intellect is the self. So you have to remove that intellect. No. Intellect is not the self. Body, not the self. Senses, not the self. If you can remove all that, the self will automatically start shining through. Neti. That is why Shankaracharya said that. You cannot define the self, but you can say, no, this is not the self. 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 And ultimately, you will reach the self because it is there. You don't have to define it. Light cannot, in a dark room, when light enters, everything is clear. Just like that. Because self is self-evident. Swayambhu, like we call up some of the idols, temple idols as Swayambhu, self. Similarly, self is self-evident. And through resorting to what is called as complete focus of mind, cutting out or all the sensory inputs, in the sense of this is coming from outside, satisfying the senses and intellect and the mind. So you do not take those kinds of inputs from the outside world. You have to have intellectual firmness, you have to have mental cleanliness, and you have to have physical cleanliness, meaning physical strengths, body disciplines, etc., and outer cleanliness in terms of how you actually think and act in this outside world, cleanliness in the outside world. So this is what is actually symbolically represented. We have discussed that in the 6th chapter as the kind of darba grass, the animal skin and the cloth, and upon which you sit steady with firm determination for meditation. That is the preparation that you need to do. Intellectual steadiness, mental cleanliness, physical cleanliness, and outer cleanliness are required to actually make sure that you are able to tap the self-effort, put in self-effort to succeed. So, 9th chapter. We quickly go through 9th chapter, what Krishna said, so that, again, that is referenced here in the next couple of slokas. So I'm looking at that again to remind you about the 9th chapter. It's very important messages there. That the self is infinite. Self is infinite. The macroscopic world universe is that self manifested. And in the microscopic world, which is the Veshti Prabanjam, the individual is nothing but that derived from the universe. That self, therefore, is everything. It is Adi, Adhyatma, Adi Buddha, and Adi Devika, all the outside elementary forces, social forces, and our inner forces. Everything is self. And it works through our brain. Our brain, the universe works through our brain, and through knowledge, power of knowledge and ignorance and projection to thoughts, the cause, and the actions in the world, outside world. This is how we translate these forces of universe into our Veshti Prabanjam, our individual world. We create our individual worlds. And our individual worlds are run or governed by two different types of rules: knowledge, values, and wisdom, or knowledge, wealth, and power. It can be either of this. So, knowledge, wealth, and power is your ultimate motive. Your gains are limited. But if knowledge, values, and wisdom are your motivation, then unlimited gains are promised. If knowledge, wealth, and power is your driver, false hopes, wasted actions, useless knowledge, and you become Asura or Rakshasa. But if knowledge, values, and wisdom are powered constantly And with focus, total focus and dedication for the joys of the inner self, through this process, your Kshema and Yoga Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yajanaha Pajupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yoga Kshemam Vahamiyaham. That is promised. Then your senses, mind, intellect are all geared towards the self. Self that is impartial and everyone will succeed, now or sometime later. Self is rooted in sacrifice. And you can evolve yourself in the level of sacrifice that you put forth as an beginner, intermediate, advanced, or expert. Whatever you put in, the self will ultimately bless you. It doesn't matter. Even if you start small, you will succeed. Patram pushpam phalam thoyam. Okay. 9th chapter describes that. And that thought processes with love, priority, effort, and focus is called as bhakti. 933, 934. That is how that chapter ends. The self that enlivens you is infinity. So, how do you actually now become the self? When you are endowed with sattvic and pure intellect, reasoning power, controlling the mind and the senses, abandoning the pleasures of the senses, and laying aside likes and dislikes. Think, control the mind, withdraw the senses, thus shunning likes and dislikes. 1851. Focus, then part focus, resorting to a sequestered sport, eating little, speech and body control, etc., which means focus, selective intake and interaction, networking, and etc., equanimous, thus being dispassionate, 1852, and free from the notion of me and mine. One is fit for identification with the self, 1853. So this is how you become the self. That is now summarized, all the details we have discussed so far in 650 or 70 verses prior to this. Becoming Brahman, thus the infinitude of serene self. The person who reaches that state never grieves nor desires, treating all beings alike. He attains supreme identification with the self. In knowledge, that is your identification with the knowledge of the self, the result of identification with the knowledge of the self. By devotion, and then that actually helps you to grow devotion. He knows the self is the truth. What and who the self is. Knowing the self in truth, he forthwith enters the self, becomes the self in devotion. So that devotional characteristics and process was explained in chapter 12. Quickly look at that again for our memory. So we have existing capabilities that we can use. We have, with faith, dedication, and focus. You can create new capabilities, yoga, through the process of sense control, equanimity, and applying selflessness in all our actions. Sanniyam Indriya Gramam, the verse in chapter 12:4. Sanniyam Indriya Gramam Sarvatra Samabuddhayaha Te Prapnuvanti Mam Eva Sarvabhuta Hiterataha. So that is how you actually start creating the yogic capabilities. In the sense, newer capabilities which are within the self in itself, but your BMI is not yet acquired it. So through this process, you can acquire that, means you are expanding yourself into further capabilities. It is easy for existing capabilities to be expressed, but acquiring new capabilities may be difficult, but we can still do that through dedication to self. Yedu sarvani karmani mahi sanyasya matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mamdhyayanta upasade. So that is dedication to self. And you can reach this state where Mayyeva mana adalsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashishyasi mayyeva, ada urdhvam na samshayaha. Mind on the self, intellect on the self, actions will set on the self. Definitely you are going to succeed. If you cannot practice, prioritize, and start loving the self and doing it for the self. If you do that, that is the path to inspired action. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat. Jnanabhyanam vishishyate. Dhyanat karma bala tyagas. Tyagas chandiranandaram. Mere practice, knowledge better, reflective knowledge better, selfless application the best, and your peace is assured and your actions become inspired. And when you do that, you have motivations, attitudes, aptitudes, and the fortitude of your mind brings you into that state of meditation, flow, dhyana. That is what Bhakti Yoga teaches us. Therefore, devotion, that is what devotion is all about. And such a person who can translate the self into intellect and mind functions, thought power, emotions, completely geared towards the self. And the senses completely purified by these ideation and emotions, the action becomes completely in tune with the infinitude, not hateful, friendly, compassionate, devoid of pride, selfless, balanced, forgiving. 32 different characteristics of the mind surfaces from such people. They are the true devotees. They are loved by Krishna. So that is 12th chapter telling us. So the actions that we perform in this world are devoid of selfishness. In fact, the world you can consider as on the right side, that the created world, completely there is this underlying infinitude, coexistence, and expansion that is ruling this universe. Forgiveness, righteousness, peacefulness, cooperation, compassion, truthfulness, all these are there. It is written in faded blue. But what is happening is, because of our gunas, we create hatred, jealousy, anger, envy, fearfulness, lust, laziness, hate. All those things become in the past, driving the present, and therefore the future is hopeful periodically, fleeting satisfactions, fleeting happiness, all these red things, fluctuating, keeping on fluctuating. That is bondage. We are bound. Instead, we need to release all this selfishness and be liberated. So, the I, the infinite, becoming the universe, the universal I, becoming the individual I, as the prajna within us, same thing. It is the same blue I. Problem is, the moment the ego comes in, the intellect comes in, I, me starts taking surface. And therefore, what happens is, our freedom becomes bondage. We are bound by our identification with the BMI. Mind, emotions, sensory pleasures, organ capabilities, everything is I, mind, ruled by mind. That is the bondage that we are talking about. Brahman became the Ishvara, became the Atman, and then it became the Jiva, the agent. Boom, everything goes, because we are run by ego and selfishness and the gunas. And this is how things happen. We need to become like this, completely free of this, by giving up this and shaping our gunas. Absolute perfection is the consummation of the knowledge of the self. As I told you, self is forgotten. We become intellect, mind, senses, and intellect, mind, senses, and body, which is the bondage. Instead, what we need to do is, we need to sublimate the ego, leave the ego at the doorstep. Sublimate the ego, develop pure reasoning through acquiring knowledge, understand the self, and make sure that the joys of the self are understood. And make sure that you practice every type of joys of the self that we have listed out in practical world, and try to implement that in life and follow those things. Reject your likes and dislikes and do your duty with the best of intentions. Distinguish between what is good and what is pleasant, what is shreyas and what is prayas. Reflect on them, mindfully reflect on them, and always be engaging the mind and intellect to differentiate between the good and pleasant and act in the path of good. Dwell in the self by habit, thus become habitual in dwelling on the self. And then you are on the path to perfection, to purity, to right perceptions, and to liberation. That is, slowly you will find you are becoming one with the self. So, sincerely offering all the actions to the self. And, by setting joys of the self as your top priority, the supreme motivation, completely depending on the power of the self by tapping the self effort. To do that without ever thinking that it is not possible and I cannot do this. Don't think that. Always focus your mind on the self as apart from the BMI and make sure that the BMI changes and resort to action in the present, the power of now. Apply the power of now without regrets or anxieties and agitations. That is 1857. By fixing your mind thus on the self, you shall cross all hurdles. But if you do to ego, forget the self and go after the BMI, then you will perish. If due to ego, you think you are not capable of doing anything, it is because of the ego. Just understand that it is the ego playing a trick on you. Then your nature will drive you to action. Then you will start working according to what is inbuilt into your nature. The inbuilt nature of rajas and tamas contaminating the sattva. That will automatically start working. But because your mind and the intellect is fully wrapped in rajas and tamas and contaminating the sattva, you don't feel helpless because nobody from outside will be able to help you. That is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Only yourself will help you. Your knowledge of the self will help you to do that. Your faith, devotion to the self will help you to do that. And you have to keep on reminding yourself and keep on constantly focusing on the self. Ananyas chindayan domam ejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. If you do that, you are assured of success in acquiring new skills as well as in maintaining existing ones. Thus hath wisdom. This is the wisdom that I wanted to tell you. More secret than that is secret. It is very secret in the sense that, yes, it is easy to grasp it literally, but difficult to practice it. And therefore, you behave as if you do not know it. That is why it is called as guhyam, secret. It has been now declared to you, Arjuna. Reflect on this over and over and over again. And he also said, as you please, and do as you please. Krishna completed the transfer of wisdom by saying that, yes, I have now told you, reflect on it. And you do as you want. That is ultimate. I'm not forcing you to do. Do as you please. A true teacher should be like that, is basically what Krishna is teaching us. So let us look at what the meaning of do as you please is. Do act as you please. Let us look at it in detail. Do as you please really implies do as the self wishes. As you please. Krishna is telling you, everyone, you, who are you? I am the self. So as you please means the self please, not the BMI. So you have to understand that as you please means as the self pleases. You can take decisions that are present, good, bad, or evil. The choice is ours. Choices of the mind. Ignorant, deluded, and confused minds cannot take good decisions. The power to choose is thus a grace of God. We need to dive deep into the self. It is the power to take the right decision is the grace of the self within you. We need to dive deep into that reservoir of self, inner conscience, to get it right. Do as you wish is thus a command or instruction given by Krishna to Arjuna that guides the knowledgeable and the wise. It is not one of despair and irritation. Krishna is not teaching everything and then saying you do as you please. Like, for example, in parents sometimes they get frustrated with the children because they keep on doing things and then finally you give up. You say, okay, then you do whatever you want. That it is not that kind of word in frustration. Krishna is not talking about or telling Arjuna not in frustration. It is a completely different tune. So let us understand in real details. How do we need to clarify? If we need to really understand this, we need to clarify the knobs, the different elements of that statement. Do as you wish. The wisdom has been, he says in that verse, that thus hath wisdom, more secret than all that is secret, been declared to you. Reflect over it and act as you please. The knobs are: one, the wisdom that has been declared to him. That is the whole of Gita intelligence so far. 700 slokas, roughly 700 slokas. Then it is a secret wisdom, most secret being that is very, looks apparently easy but difficult to practice. Reflect on it, the third thing. And then finally do as you please. That is how that stanza says. So now, the Bhagavad-Gita, that wisdom, the first one, the wisdom of the Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita message is in its entirety from chapter 1 to chapters 18 up to 63. Is the message of right action with right attitude. It has been declared completely. It has been exposed to you completely. All aspects of karma, bhakti and jnana have been dealt with. After this, Arjuna has all the perspectives in hand to take a considered decision. A decision that is devoid of any strand of selfishness and ignorance and aligned with the global perspectives. That is the wisdom of Gita intelligence. Now, the most secret knowledge, why? It is the most profound and confidential understanding that you can achieve. Secrecy and confidentiality stem from your ability to withhold information from your mind and perceiving senses. You don't give in to the pressures of the senses and the mind's whims and fancies and the intellect's interests. The knowledge of powers and the joys of the self, even though it appears logical and commonsensical, often eludes us because of our egocentric nature that identifies the BMI with the self. Hence, for all practical purposes, you work as if unaware of this truth. That is why it is called as secret. Hence, it is declared the most secret knowledge. Reflection. Reflection is the process by which you identify with any knowledge for that matter. Deep analytical thinking is defined as reflection, whereby you connect with the concepts studied, associated with your experiences, and the knowledge chunks that you have already stored within your memory. That is reflection. And you, the self within, is the you, as completely different from intellect, mind, and the body. This differentiation is the most secret and profound wisdom that is alluded above or preferred above in this story. So, do as you please, as the self pleases, is the message. Fix your mind on the self. Be devoted to the self. Offer every act as an offering to the self. Be humble in approach, bow to the self, and you shall certainly reach the self. The self promises you this because you are the self. You are the self. Therefore, there is nothing to worry about. We are talking about the self only so far, and you are the self. Therefore, what is there to worry about? He is your dear friend. And then he says, setting aside all other dharmas, the dharma of the mind, dharma of the intellect, dharma of the senses, dharma of the ego. It is ego's duty to bind you to the BMI. It will do it, but don't fall for it. Setting aside all such dharmas, just surrender completely to me, the self, joys of the self. The powers of the self shall liberate you from all sins. Do not grieve. Therefore, don't worry, don't grieve, don't be sorrowful. Sarva dharman parityajya mamegam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayikshami ma shuchaha. That is this sloka 66. So here, the real message of the Bhagavad Gita ends with the words ma shujaha, do not grieve. If you remember, we started with the first word from Krishna as Asocyan, 2:11, second chapter, 11th verse. Asocyan anvasijat Asocyan anvashojastvam prajnavadamscha bhashyate. So it says that he clearly starts with the analytical reasoning why you should not be grieving for things and beings for which you should, you are grieving now, for which you should not be grieving. Asocyan. Asocyan, you are doing all this. Therefore, ma shujaha, do not grieve. That is the way the Bhagavad Gita message, the wisdom starts. The wisdom starts with this. Asocyan, do not grieve. And for which you should not be grieving. So if you can actually take the two words, Asocyan, ma shujaha. That is, if you say in one phrase, what is Bhagavad Gita teaching you? What is the message of Bhagavad Gita? The message of Bhagavad Gita can be actually summarized in two words, the first and the last word of Bhagavad Gita. That is, do not grieve for which you should not be grieving. That's it. It is as simple as that. Now, rest are all details. Do not grieve for which you should not be grieving. You should not be grieving for things that you should not actually be grieving. That is it. That is the only message that Gita gives. Very simple. In two words. And that is how all the slogas are connected together with the first and last word. Rest, all those are details. The first two and last words sum up the message of the Bhagavad Gita. In the action of karma, dharma implies duty. And in the message of devotion, of inspiration to the power of the self, and in the path of knowledge, understanding what self is, differentiating it from the gunas, and going up the ladder. Through these strategies of karma, bhakti, and jnana, we will become free of all our sins and attain freedom from our limitations. So, a few slogas are there, written, which is about, the various methods of attaining the benefits of Gita is summarized there in those few slogas later. Reading of the Gita, chanting the Gita, studying the Gita, writing the Gita, enacting the Gita, distributing the Gita, teaching the Gita are the 7 different types in which you can actually engage with the Bhagavad Gita or the Gita intelligence. Krishna says that teaching the Gita is the best mode and that such teachers are dearest to him. So we have been actually doing this for the last 23 years. Teaching children actually is basically what Vijnan Vikas has been doing. We have been having various kinds of activities. Every chapter once taught, we actually make them do some kind of visualization through drama, skits, and musicals and dances, etc. And we also have exhibitions and seminars that we organize with the children talking about these concepts, and playing the dramas, pantomimes, and other things, skits, and quiz competitions and recitations also are part of it. And ultimately, these are some of the pictures from our different activities across the years. Or maybe about 200 children have passed through that from 2003 to 2024 now. And every year we have at least 4 or 5 people, graduating out of the 12th class after going through that for several years. Some for almost, you can say, 12 to 13 years, from age 5 to 17. Or some people, from 10 to 17, 6 or 7 years. And some people in the last 2-3 years also 8 9 or 9 10 11 12 classes, so 3 or 4 years. So we have a spectrum, and it's a running class all throughout the year, every weekend. And normally we have about 30 to 35 classes every year. With the summer vacations we break. So it's been going on, and these are some of the activities, that very little things that we can do to pass on this message, wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, as well as the belief in this knowledge, the Indic knowledge of these things, which are also connected very much to modern knowledge of neuroscience, strategic successes, and all those things. We try to correlate all these things so that the children go out with the, what you call as a pride, the pride in their heritage. That is more important. Outside, I have seen most of our children are not knowledgeable about it, and therefore they succumb to the pressures of other kinds of influences, and they think that our systems of philosophy, etc., are useless, or they don't have pride. Our children do not have pride in the philosophical wisdom, which is actually, I would say, the most profound philosophical wisdom available is from the Upanishads. No, nothing else can match that. I don't want to name any other scriptures because I'm not comparing them, but I can tell you very confidently from what I have seen and from various other research and literatures that the Upanishad wisdom is so deep. The Upanishad wisdom is comprehensive. The Upanishad wisdom is very abstract. Abstract meaning it can be applied in any situations. Whether it is in spirituality, whether it is in life, whether it is in family life, whether it is in professional life, or in social activities, anywhere, the knowledge is abstract, so it can map into any of those things. That is the reason why 3, 4, or 5 or 6,000 years onward, still this knowledge is surviving. None of the other scriptures are more than 2,000 or years old. Our scripture, this Upanishads, are more than 5,000 years, and it still stands, and it still applies, and still you can connect with modern knowledge. That is the beauty of this, and our youth should understand this, and they should take pride in it. The practical message of the Bhagavad Gita was summed up in 70 and 71 as the active resistance to unrighteousness. In other words, another way that you can summarize the message of Bhagavad Gita is active resistance to, it is about the active resistance you can give to unrighteousness. So there is a list of practical things that I have listed out, which I will post. The practical message of Gita. This active resistance to unrighteousness can be expanded into some tidbits like this, and the last 2 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Now we read the last 2 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's query to Arjuna: have you listened to all this with single-minded devotion? He's asking Arjuna. Has your delusion born of ignorance been destroyed? The teacher is asking the student. Okay, I've told you this. Did you listen to it carefully? And are all your doubts cleared? He wants to make sure. And then Arjuna says, my delusion is destroyed, and I have gained true recognition through the grace of the powers of the self. I am firm now, with all doubts sublimated. I will do as you bid. Krishna said, if you do as you like. And Arjuna says, I will do as you say, with firmness. That is the clarity of knowledge. Clarity of knowledge. That has actually helped the BMI to be very, very clear. Arjuna, BMI is the Arjuna, to be very clear. Krishna has passed. Self has passed these powers to the BMI. And the BMI now says, I can. And there is no question of me saying that I am not capable of doing this, that this is tough or anything, because BMI is convinced that it can achieve this. And therefore, I promise you, I will do as you bid. That should be our state of mind. Initially, Arjuna had surrendered, saying that, okay, and I don't want to do it, but if you say, I will do it. That's how Krishna said at the beginning. And now he said, I will do as you say. That is the transformation that has happened. Sanjaya, then conclusion, Sanjaya, that the ever victorious conscience is excited. 74. Sanjaya says, I heard this wonderful dialogue between Lord Krishna and Mahatma Arjuna, causing my hair to stand on end. Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra. He's excited. He's feeling the goosebumps. So the ever-victorious conscience now within me is excited. The ever-victorious conscience, Sanjaya, is my conscience. And my conscience is now excited. It is creating goosebumps in me. By the grace of the Guru, Sage Vyasa, I heard this most secret and supreme yoga directly from Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, himself speaking to Arjuna before my very eyes, of clairvoyance granted by Sage Vyasa. He was sitting somewhere way far off, but still he was seeing the battleground. The representation, the symbolization is that knowledge of the self make the victorious conscience unite with the self. Because self is everywhere and you unite with it. And that provides the inner vision, clairvoyant vision. Sanjaya had that. That means our conscience has that and should be now able to see that. O King, by repeated remembrance of this marvelous and sacred knowledge, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I am thrilled at the very moment. And 77, recollecting again and again, O King, that marvelous form of Krishna, I am greatly amazed and I rejoice repeatedly. What is the significance? Repeated practice of this knowledge will make us inspired by the self and in all our thoughts and actions. And living such a life, we will constantly be striding towards an amazing life of sustainable happiness. That is the message that Sanjaya is summarizing as, characters of the story in Mahabharata. And therefore concludes the last sloka, 1878. Sanjaya says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhuthir, Dhruva Nidhir Madhir Mama. He says, wherever there is both Krishna and Arjuna, Yogeshwara Krishna and Dhanurdhara Partha Arjuna, Yogeshwara Krishna and weapon-clad Arjuna. Krishna, the Lord of integration, Yogeshwara. Arjuna armed with the weapons of duty and protection. What are the weapons that Arjuna had? The weapons of duty and protection. Dhanurdhara Partha. There will be everlasting prosperity, Sri. Triumphant victory, Vijaya. Limitless fortunes, Buddhi. And firm justice, Dhruvanidhi. This is my intellectual conviction. Madhir Mama. This is my intellectual conviction. So that is how Sanjaya concludes this. Sanjaya is now putting a stamp of warranty on it. There, the supreme motivations of the joys of the self integrates the body, mind, and intellect. That is yoga. Yogeshwara Krishna. He is the one who integrates the self with the BMI. The power of the self is integrating the BMI. So that means BMI is now integrating the self. The integrating power within me, the self, is Yogeshwara Krishna. The sense of duty, right attitudes to work are the weapons with which we can fight. And if we are equipped with this, the mind is equipped. The intellect and mind is equipped with the sense of duty, attitudes, and integrated aptitudes, and etc. Then they are the weapons I have now to fight this world, the challenges in this world, the problems of this world. When they combine together, so these weapons-clad Arjuna and the Yogeshwara Krishna, the self, when they join together in union, then there is everlasting peace, triumphant victory, limitless fortunes, and firm justice. This is complete self-actualization. It's the Krishna is the self and these divine values. Everything. You can split those things and then take each one of them as Krishna and combine it with Arjuna, the mind's weapon. Use that quality. There will be victory. So I have split up it into a table. You can analyze that when I post this. Truth combined with the dynamism helps you to be totally victorious. Holistic vision combined with the readiness to actually apply that holistic vision. I have everything, I know everything, but I don't do anything. Nothing happens. So I know everything, but then mind and intellect should work with that vision and work. So the readiness to live that vision is Arjuna. Spiritual vision combined with self-realization, or values combined with duty and righteousness, or goodness combined with smartness in action, wisdom combined with secular, spiritual knowledge combined with secular knowledge, renunciation with action, inspiration with perspiration. That is what Sanjaya is talking about. Combining these two things, yatra yogeshwara Krishna, yatra pato dhanurdhara, tatra Sri Vijayo Buddha, Dhruvanidir Matir Mama. So now let us look at the wrapper, this package of Bhagavad-Gita, which we talked about as Asocian, Na Shochya, Ma Shuchaha, Shochyan, Ma Shuchaha is the Gita, the sweet. That is now wrapped in the toffee paper. What is that wrapper? Dharma, it starts with Dharma, the first version. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. And ends with 18 sentences here, which is this Madhur Mama, Mama, the word Mama. So Dharma and Mama are the first word and the last word of the wrapper. So what is it talking about? It is talking about Mama Dharma. Bhagavad-Gita is talking about Mama Dharma, because it starts with Dharma and ends with Mama. So what is it? So if you say in two words, what does Bhagavad-Gita teach you? It teaches you Mama Dharma, my duties. That is how it is wrapped up in the outer sense. So Om Tat Sat Idi Srimad Bhagavad-Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Moksha Sannyasa Yogo Nama Ashtadosha Odhyayaha. This concludes the discussions on our Swam-Gita. So now I will stop this discussion and go for other, Anandji is going to speak with you, and also we can have discussions. But before that, I would like to conclude with our mantra, but this time it is about, also chanting the Bhagavad-Gita Arati, and then this thing, and then we'll go to the discussions.
जय भगवद गीते जय जय भगवद गीते हरि कमल विहारिणी सुंदर सुपुनीते
जय जय भगवद गीते
सुमर्म प्रकाशिनी कामासक्ति हरा तत्त्वज्ञान विकाशिनी विद्या ब्रह्म परा
जय जय भगवद गीते
निश्चल भक्ति विधायिनी निर्मल मनहारी
निर्मल मलहारी
शरण रहस्य प्रदायिनी
शरण रहस्य प्रदायिनी
सब विधि सुखकारी
जय जय भगवद गीते
राग द्वेष विदारिणी कारिणी मोद सदा
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Om Tat Sat. Anandji, I would request you to speak. I hope everyone would stay back and listen, and then before we wind up.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, again.
So instead of my talking, I was just wondering why not we start with mm, 1 minute.
Anandji, can you mute one of the devices so that
No, I think there is some problem in 1 minute.
Okay.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it is okay. Yep.
See, why not we start, with our the people who are present here. Why not we listen to them first? Is it possible that some of you can give your reflections?
Sure.
It would be nice, if all of you give your own reflections on the whole thing instead of my talking, Can I request Mr. Vijay sir to start?
Ajit is
Oh,
start.
Ajit, okay.
Good evening, everyone. See, unfortunately, my camera is not on. Sir, to be very honest, Bhagavad-Gita, I've never followed or I've never. It's a shame to say I'm at the age of 47. I've never looked into it much. But honestly speaking, I attended all the classes which you have told. To be very honest, it's not that everything I could understand, probably because I'm till now, like you told correctly, many of the times your mind is here and sometimes, body is here and your mind keeps on wavering. But to be very honest, the in-depth knowledge which you have given, I swear I will take it up further to at least enhance a little bit and at least reflect some of this thing into my life. I definitely have changed from the classes which I've seen. Obviously, if my wife was here, she would have correctly vouched for it because I used to always think, oh, what was bad in the past, and I also always used to get excited or get worried about the future. I am not telling I've changed, but to be honest, I've changed at least a little bit. So I would say at the age of 47, when you change at least a little bit, hearing your class and this thing, I'm sure that it makes wonders. And the very good thing which I liked about you is like what you're inspiring for the younger generation and the classes which you're taking for the people, for the next generation. I always say that like my kids, like one is in 10th and one is in 3rd. So both of them are probably that does not know whether there is a Bhagavad Gita existing. At least it's a shame to say, as a parents, we have also not motivated them to go into this thing. So what knowledge which they gain from this thing are immense. I'm sure. I always used to think, to be very honest, I don't know whether I am making a wrong statement here, but at the same time, sorry if I'm making it, but always I used to think it's only religious and very, very in-depth religious, this thing. But when you related with the daily activities, I work in a corporate world where everything is cutthroat competitions. We try to compete with others internally, externally, everything. But here, you have given a very good this thing how a person can motivate others, grow in this thing and things like that. Thanks very much, sir. And it was a great class. It was all through these things I used to listen, but at this time when Anandji gave me an opportunity to talk, I had to talk what is in my mind. Thanks for giving this opportunity to talk, and it was a blessed feeling to be in your class, sir.
Thank you, Ajit. Thank you, Ajit, for your wonderful words. And also at this point, I just wanted to point out that you said that at 47 you are making changes. Be confident; it can be done because we also have now understood neuroplasticity. The brain is capable of doing that. And till the point, even if you are 80 years or 90 years old, still the brain can change. That is the power of neuroplasticity bestowed on us by the infinite. Okay, so yeah, okay.
Thank
I
you.
can
Thank
add
you,
one
sir.
more thing to this, At least he was lucky to start at 47. I started at 70.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Namaskaram, sir. Ajit here.
Ajit.
Yeah, so in fact, what should I say? The way you have taken this timeless wisdom forward, it just fits all ages, your infographics, the way of detailing that you have gone into, and also the way you have blended the scientific aspects as well as the modern neuroscience elements which are blended together. It really makes a lot of difference. It has been, I would say, there's so much of learning that has happened, but I would still confess to the fact that I'm planning to go back to each one of those videos which you have sent us in YouTube, and planning to actually go through it in detailing, minute by minute, seed by seed, and watch out, make notes, and plan to do an entire reflection of the entire thing. Probably that is going to keep me occupied for the next 6 to 7 months only on this, and that is when I would probably say that my learnings are totally complete, because otherwise I'd be making a wrong statement. But that's the level of wisdom that you have put in across through those slides and your talk, and the examples that you have shared over there. Just also to want to tell you one thing, in between this, I went through a very personal crisis also, which I'll separately speak to Mr. Satish ji later on. But to be very frank, probably the learnings in the Gita were the one which I could probably come out of the entire thing. I went through a really bad phase, and I somehow I could only make time to somehow come and attend these sessions when it was happening every Friday. And normally I used to keep my video also off, because just listening was the only thing that I was doing. And but there were a lot of key things that happened, and probably at some point of time, I was in an Arjuna state of mind where totally desolate, totally lost, totally, depressed sort of thing, and probably a lot of learnings have come that way also. So I really feel great about it. Probably I see it as a big nimittam that this happened, and in fact, I will tell you this story to the entire group later on. Probably it was a total turnaround that happened to me in this phase, and I'm really thankful, Sadhji, for your for to ensure that this came to us more like a Friday evening affair, and and we were so attached to the entire thing. I really miss these sessions, but I would still suggest you, sir, probably let us have some follow through sessions, might be with the group members and all those. So this Friday evening 7:30, I've always marked in my calendar. There are days, when I have actually put this in my AirPods and ran through the roads listening to it, rather than missing it out. That's the level we have gone through it. So I definitely want this to be taken it forward, and I'm so thankful. And any refresher onto this, or anything onto this, probably I'll be the first person to join for such a program. And do let me know in my own way how can be an assistance to you and your noble venture that you are into, sir. And thank you so much, Anandji. And I've been always hearing to your talk also, and so many others who keep talking about it. I'm very thankful to Jyotsna also, my classmate, who actually introduced me to Satish sir and this particular Bhagavad Gita group. So very thankful for you over that, and so much to learn. That's what I feel. So in fact, thank you so much, sir. And thank you is not the word, but I feel I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed, and probably it's just a great nimittam, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajit. Thank you, Ajit.
Satish sir and everybody in the group. I thank the divinity, Ms. Uma Maheshwari, for introducing me to this wonderful Bhagavad Gita self-realization class. It's been an amazing journey. Today, like when I was listening to you, I was like in my tears. I don't know. Like as you were saying, bondage to liberation, it was like my eyes, tears were flowing through my eyes and I got goosebumps. So it's been a real amazing journey. And as everybody else said, I second to them that yes, we need to go through each chapters again and again to implement them. It is not, 700 shlokas, and the gist you said in such a way that it's one's duty we should follow, and it's something amazing. The words are not enough to express my gratitude, sir. I'm really indebted to you. Thank you so much for giving us this knowledge. that too, I should say free of cost. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, you did such a great thing by, you know, introducing the infographics. Like we learned as children, actually. I mean, we actually, you know, every Friday, as somebody said, that every Friday 7:30 was something we were always looking forward to. And I also would like to join if any follow-through sessions or anything of such kind happens. And thank you so much, sir, once again. And thanks everyone in the group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sangeeta, and thank you also for specifically for being the co-host and managing the entries and etc. So that was also a big support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, Vijay. Vijay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm in bed, cannot get up.
Yeah.
I twisted my ankle few days back, and the doctor has advised me not to get up from the bed.
Yeah, sure, you should do
So
that.
in a bad condition. So just I cannot switch on my video, though I can continue to talk. So thank you, Uma Maheshwari ji, first of all, for introducing Satish ji, this course to me. Thank you so much. And this Bhagavad-Gita was always there on my to-do list, but never read or attended any of the Bhagavad-Gita courses as such. So it looks like it was waiting for the master like Satish ji to teach it to me with such high energy levels, compassion, and conviction, as already highlighted. Infographics, scientific approach, etc. were all great. And I don't need to again read another copy of Bhagavad Gita now. I think it's all there in the group, in the YouTube links, and in the form of PPTs now. And I don't need to search for the right copy of Bhagavad Gita. I can always refer back to it. So in other words, I'd say Satish ji has always been saying since first session about the selflessness and about the self and the actions, karma, kausalam, etc. And through the course, it was on display, I would say. Thank you, sir, for imparting such a clarity on the self. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Vijay, and get well soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Anand sir, for always being there for all the kind of guidance and inputs and all. Thank you. And thank you everyone for being as part of the group.
Thank
it was
you
a great learning together.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish ji, for the wonderful sessions.
Thank you, Maji.
It's cannot express in words. It's a blessing. Our journey started in 2017 when you were guiding us through the Bhagavad Gita on your Facebook page, verse by verse. And every word I could resound with it. And the resonance continues. I might have missed classes here, but those content are always precious. And there's so many who are aspiring to do it. Vijay ji, Sangeeta ji, and all have joined. And Anand ji continues to be our spiritual guide, as always. Your thorough knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, a complete salute. You are the Krishna for all of us here. You have brought it out so wonderfully that it kind of at the cellular level and crossing fingers, the neuroplasticity will happen soon. Though the Vyavaharika Loka keeps pulling us back into the whirlpool, we will follow, especially today's class, focus only on the joys of the self and try to stay in such a Satchitanand state. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Uma Maheshwari ji. Thanks for your, I know you are the actual, the power behind organizing this group and starting this session. And I must thank you for that, for this opportunity to share the knowledge.
I have to thank Binduji and all of you here because we've become one family now. So it's a privilege and a pleasure, and of course, spiritually elevating to be here. Thank you, Shri Guru.
Thank you, Sadishji.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is the first time I am, I guess, hearing such a class. It is very vibrant. And one thing I like this class is very unique methodology you are following. Because the style of the majors and everything very easily catching, and at the same time then Ajit sir also telling like that some of the main problems in our life is also at some extent will be vanish through this class itself, because I am also a state of Arjuna, a common man. And then people, when you are taking the classes, three gunas, Satvika, Rajas and Tamas, and we are also facing these three gunas in public itself, then your class is also like a how to balancing these three gunas. When some of the sattvic persons also some of extent they are isolated, and then your class is also telling like that how we can balancing and how we can maintaining our own self. It is also very good class for us, for me also. Then even profession itself, this class is very good, and in the we can also know the pulses of the person, how they are working, how they are thinking, and we also thinking. And first of all, turn our mind into inward. That is the first thing you have to taught me. And the sir after the class itself, and the sir as the discourse is also very touching, because when we are asking some doubts, he also clarified that. That is the thing itself. And the devotional songs, etc. Then Prahlada Stuti is also very, very touching. And we are in a musical or rhythmic of in the class itself. And when one class, I have to, I have an intention to take attend only one class, but I am attending 18 classes, and that is the thing. Thank you. No words to extend our gratitude to sir. Thank you, and thank you for all the group members. You are also our friends, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajita. Thank you, Rajita. Yeah.
I think Ajit sir is talking, but
Ajit,
is on mute.
Ajit, did you say anything? No, your mic is muted.
So I was thinking, with there's so much of attachment with with you that has come in. I mean, I can't just I mean, it's just open and very evident with everyone, I should say. Is it possible that whenever you come down to India, whenever you come down to Tripunitura, and probably the entire group, Anandji and everyone else, if possible, probably we can meet somewhere and take this movement forward. I mean, it would be of great, I mean, because it's like a small satsang by itself now, let me know on that. And moreover, anything, if I can be of assistance, might be in your Tripunatara center of learning that you have. And if I am around in Kodungalur, I'll be of assistance. Let me know as a humble thing, I can also do some service to this.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, logistically, I think it may be difficult for all the people, because I think people are hailing from Bangalore and places. So, I mean, anyway, every one of you is welcome to come to Tripunatara and visit the Pattern Institute. Added benefit would be that you can benefit Chotanigra Temple as well as Purnatrayesha Temple, which is Purnatrayesha Temple is just one wall. On the other side, is Temple to Pattern Institute, and Chotanigra Temple is just 7 kilometers from our place. Okay.
Sir, probably that gives me a reason this whole day of for the Onam vacation I should be there. I was planning to go to Chotanigra Temple, so
Okay.
this is good which you told. Yeah, probably I will take details and probably try to visit.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satish sir. Srikanth here.
Srikanth, yes, Srikanth, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, this really very valuable knowledge. I have read Bhagavad Gita book, the Holy Gita by Swami Chinmayananda, but I couldn't complete to an extent. But I was like kind of deep diving into it. But when Uma Maheshwari ji shared this in the group, and I joined only few sessions, and I felt really good that this is something which I'm waiting for a very long time. I have attended leadership sessions by using Bhagavad Gita, and that person has shared a lot of points, but everything has just over the call. But after attending your sessions, a lot of stuff what he has mentioned has been pictorially shown, and it is becoming easy for me to refer again and again. In fact, I started showing it to my son as well today morning, and he is also able to get little bit out of it. He was asking me what is soul, all that stuff. So I was able to show some of the illustrations here. So that way, though I couldn't attend all the sessions, but still I could get benefit out of the YouTube videos. Thank you so much for all the work you are doing.
Thank you, Srikanth, and also a special thank you to actually helping to enroll two Vijayawada students for our teenage workshop.
Yeah, one is from Bangalore, one is from Vijayawada.
Okay, yeah. So I thought it was Vijayawada. Okay, one Vijayawada, one Bangalore student. Next week, starting the workshop will be starting next week, and two of your people are enrolled, and I hope they will be benefited. And
thanks gracefully you accepted the online presence. For the last session.
I mean, I know that it is, we have about 20 students enrolled, and 16 of them are from Tripunithura. Now, two of you from Bangalore and one from Vijayawada. Actually, the two of you from outside of Kerala, and then there are two in UK also. So there are four. Okay. So I decided that I will make them, connect with us online, even for the touch class, which is the last session. I will arrange Zoom attendance for them. That day also. So I think that should be fine. So we'll hopefully do that.
Thank you, sir.
And just beside the point, that is totally different from all that. But just since you mentioned the term soul, I would request everyone to never use the word soul, instead use the word self, because soul is a Western concept and self is our original concept. And I think we should all stick to the word self now to refer to the soul.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, Dr. Indira Gaudaman, do you want to say, I mean, you were on camera and mic, but probably you didn't get the chance.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah. I'm now actually in Kerala. Came back from UAE, for good. So attending the classes from here, but in Kerala, some family occasion will be there. So a few classes I have missed. Then I attended the video sessions which you posted in YouTube. The classes are amazing. I'm more able to express myself when I write, not when I talk. So whatever I've been writing in the group, or like now I was putting in the chat.
Yeah.
Chat box. Yeah. So it's an amazing experience. What I felt is, like so many occasions when I wanted to react or like something sad, I'm able to go inwards and see like why it is happening like that. What is getting, what is it that is affecting me? So that time, remembering your words, it really helps me a lot, helping me to improve myself. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Like I've been your student for like, I think maybe 7-8 years I've been attending your classes.
Yeah, sure.
The first time I attended when I was in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
From then onwards, then once it became Zoom, it became easier for me to be regular in the classes. I always try to attend, but sometimes because of not being there at that time, not able to attend. Thank you everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hmm? Yeah, if no one else is that, Anandji.
See, like everybody was telling, I was also introduced only by Uma Maheshwari ji. I have been attending your classes almost over 3 years, right? And I have never missed, maybe, in the last 3 years, including VV classes, I would have missed maybe 1 or 2 classes.
Right. Yeah, in fact, I would, at this point, before he continues, I will have to confirm that and also, specifically mention that, the last 3.5 years, every session that the Pattern Institute does, whether it is this Swam Geetam or the previous Gita run or the teens classes workshop, self-analytics workshop, anything, and the weekly Sunday classes. All session, I think I would have to give 99% attendance for Anandji. Yeah, out of the 150 or sessions, he would have missed 3 or 4. That's it. So, which is more than 99% or around 99%.
He'll be the first person.
Yeah, and also the most important thing is that he will be the first person who will be logging into this Zoom session, which will be 15 minutes prior to the actual scheduled time, which he will, the moment I start, he will be still already waiting there. And then, yeah, okay, so please, sorry.
See, the reason is after every class, I used to wonder the energy level with which you are conducting the class. This is amazing, and the knowledge. See, I know that, you had your basic Vedanta class, advanced Vedanta class, and also you read the Bhagavad-Gita, Upanishads, everything. All those, the knowledge which comes out, it is amazing. It is not only satsang, it's also the energy you are transmitting to the people is something which really has to be experienced. It cannot be told. The classes, that self-analytic class, what you did in Tripunithura, I used to tell everyone, you used to travel all the way from Dubai, Saturday, Sundays, and then rush back in the evening to the airport. The time, the energy, what you have been spending for the children, it is something remarkable. Of course, the money what you are spending is also quite substantial. And the students are getting everything free of cost. As Sangeeta was rightly mentioning, Sangeeta ji, was mentioning that we are getting everything free of cost. And you're also going to have that, additional, you're planning to have some strategic intelligence of self-excellence in Bangalore, right? Give some...
Yeah, I mean, I actually, Srikanth had talked to me about that, and not SIZE, but the self-analytics workshop, or, analytics workshop specifically. And also SIZE is something later on we can think about. I think I would request Srikanth and Anandji to communicate, and then, you can come up with a plan, and I can definitely, I'll be there to support that.
And also you are having that Vijnana Visad Sansad,
Yeah, that is the way normal Sunday classes that I have. I am from this Vijayadashami day on October. I am planning to make it open to everyone who can actually, who are interested. and will be available on Zoom. And the timings would be decided based on convenience. Most probably, instead of Sunday morning, it could probably be Sunday evening. So that I think that is some of the feedback that I got, that the children are busy with the training, tuition classes, entrance coaching, and all the stuff. So maybe Sunday evening, later in the evening, Sunday evening, everybody should be free of all those things. And then probably they will have, I don't know, that is something which we can discuss and finalize later on. But I will announce that soon.
So thank you very much for this wonderful session. And we have learned quite a lot. And all the best. And since I am much older, I can say all the best.
Actually, your blessings have been a guiding force. And the power of your, the wisdom and the power of your experience, and the power of humility and other things that I have seen, and of course your power of intellect. Ultimately, I know why when you have those capabilities, and your consistency and persistence and in the support has been tremendous, and I definitely bow to you in gratitude.
All the best. That's all I can say.
He is always in that joy of the self mode. Yeah, that smile and that tone of his communication keeps all of us in the same vibration.
I know.
Thank you, Maji. Thank you very much. You have made my day today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I think I will post these videos and the PowerPoint slides sometime today. If not, maybe by tomorrow morning. Maybe you have to excuse me. Usually I do it now, but then today I might be a little bit held up, in which case I will do it tomorrow. And then we will also discuss about some other things that we can do once in a while, periodically, to discuss a continuation of some of the sessions, etc., or have continuous sessions once in a while, which we'll think about. We'll put it up, and thank you very much for your presence on these Fridays. And I think that I'll also bow down to all the gurus in my life. From starting from my childhood, I started Balavihar classes as age 6 or 7. My parents were instruments for doing that. They compelled and forced and persistently and consistently followed it up. So that from the age of 6 to 17, up to pre-degree time, that is +2, there was no +2 at that time. So throughout those 12, 15, maybe 10 to 11 years, I think we have attended these classes, several classes, Balavikas and all those things. And there was no, there was no leeway. There was no excuses. Sunday, you have to attend that. Rain, monsoon, summer, nothing. Exams, no excuse. So that was how we were. We were forced. And at that time we had difficulties, we felt. But then looking back, I feel I'm blessed because I had parents like that. And both of them are not with me now, but I'm sure their blessings are, and their guidance and their insistence has paid dividends. And some of the things that in the Jnanavikas classes that I find is that the parents are not insistent these days. And therefore, the teenagers, we also had, complained about attending classes regularly. But then they did not allow us, and we were forced to. So, the teens saying that, or children saying that they don't want to attend is natural. And otherwise, they are not children. But the parents giving way is actually failing of parenthood, is basically what I felt. And but when we started in 2003, the children were the force which actually forced the parents also to shift all their programs and attend the classes, is basically what I found. Because one of the things that I realized from my experience is that if we give it in the language that they understand, in the language in which they want it, and that they feel it is useful, then they will attend. So if they are running away from it, then it is because they feel that it is not useful. So I think we have the burden and the duty to make sure that it is understandable and it is useful for the 21st century. And that is the humble attempt that from my side is happening, because I am trying to see this wisdom in the 21st century light. Yes, when I studied, it was in the 1970s, 60s and 70s. 1960s and 70s, the world was different. Society was different. Family bonding and cultural values were completely different from about 50 years back at that time. And we were taught specific to the disciplines of that time, but now it is completely different. Therefore, we have to have different approaches, and those different approaches is basically what is coming from Vigyan Vikas and the Pattern. The Pattern Institute is trying to do that, understanding the requirements of the 21st century, understanding the rationale of the 21st century, understanding the mindset of the teenagers now, and then preparing them to live in a world of artificial intelligence, data science, and all such things. We cannot escape that. It is going to definitely come. In fact, I was recently looking at the small things that is happening. Like, for example, sorry if I a few more minutes. There are some kind of poly alloy materials which has certain capabilities, and there are also materials that actually can go into only two shapes. One, and then because of some other external forces applied to it, it can go to automatically to a different shape. Like, a simple example would be a ice cube. You take it out of the freezer, put it outside, it will go to its permanent state. The permanent state is of that of water, shapeless and fluid. But so what is happening is, chemically there is a force that is generated within, which actually splits it and then goes automatically to water state. That is one example. Now, it has been found that, if we can actually combine two materials or more material, two or more materials as substrate one upon the other, you can actually kind of achieve these kind of inner forces when temperature is applied, or some external forces, external thing like temperature is applied. And this applying different material, different types of alloys, materials to form a element alloy is possible with the technology called the 3D printing now. And if you do that, and temperature is applied or temperature is released, cooled or something like that, what happens is different materials react differently. So if we have 8 different materials printed on top of each other, or in some combination, whatever, and then these kind of external influences happen, these 7 materials or 8 materials can behave in 256 different ways, which means that 256 varieties of combinations of shape change can be achieved automatically. Just imagine that. And these kind of this is natural intelligence, universal intelligence working through the materials. That's all, nothing else. No programming required, no external machinery required. You can just deform it into different shapes based on the combinations of materials and their quantity and their the actual quality of materials. This is universal intelligence working through the materials, and you can utilize that to create automatic time-changing structures, and that is called as 4D printing. That is a new technology, 4D printing. So 4D printing is coming out of actually nature's intelligence being mimicked artificial means. So that is an application of artificial intelligence. And you see, our youngsters are young minds, thought-powered minds that needs to get into that kind of a world where we are going to see self-forming structures. Probably a chair can be made automatically. Imagine that. That is the world, maybe 20 years from now, that our youth is going to inherit. They are going to live in that world. They are going to use artificial intelligence to create things for people without machinery, therefore without affecting the environment, etc., etc., sustainability, and all those things come into play. So if we do not prepare our youngsters, young minds to actually live in this world of artificial intelligence, tapping the natural intelligence in the appropriate manner through value systems that actually can feed sustainability, coexistence, and expansion, then we are going to have a problem. And I think the youth should be prepared for that. And as parents, we should actually be exposing them to these kind of thoughts rather than, becoming an expert in test taking. Objective type questions, 100 questions in 100 minutes. I'm expert in that, but nothing. They are test takers, but not concept developers. So I think we need to bring them up to concept development stage. And that is what Pattern Institute is doing, infusing Bhagavad-Gita knowledge also, so that the values are intact. Okay, sorry. So there are so many things that like this we can go on, but we will close down now. With that, not on modern 21st century applications of Bhagavad Gita also for the youth. Thank you. Guru Bhyo.
Shri Guru Bhyo Namah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.